What if history could speak again? Imagine Tesla and Einstein sharing a table, Cleopatra debating Caesar, minds from distant centuries meeting in one timeless space. This is Timeless Debates, where the past returns, where ideas clash, and where history comes alive. Get ready to listen like never before.
When I speak of justice, I am not merely speaking of legal justice. I'm speaking of moral justice, social justice, the kind of justice that restores human dignity. And I believe the path to that justice is nonviolent resistance. We must bear the burden of patience, not because we are weak, but because we are strong enough to wait, to endure, to stand firm without striking back.
But Dr. King, we've been patient for centuries. And where has that gotten us? From the slave ship to the sharecropper's field to the inner city tenements, this country has always demanded our patience, and we've always paid the price for it. I say patience is a luxury the oppressed can no longer afford.
Patience, Brother Malcolm, is not passive resignation. It is active resistance. The Montgomery bus boycott lasted over a year. That wasn't silence or surrender. It was a disciplined, collective struggle that achieved change, not through violence, but through courage and unity.
But you think that boycott happened because white folks woke up one morning and found compassion? No, it happened because the system felt pressure, economic pressure, political pressure, but not moral guilt. White America doesn't respond to morality, they respond to disruption.
We created that pressure without burning a single building, without firing a gun. That is the power of nonviolence. It forces the system to confront its own reflection, and in doing so, it shakes the conscience of the world.
And what happens when the system looks in that mirror and feels nothing? You say the conscience of America can be stirred. I say it was born without one. You think a country that enslaved millions and built its wealth on our backs will give us freedom because we appeal to its better angels?
I have seen glimpses of those angels, Malcolm. I've seen them in young white students marching beside us in Selma. I've seen them in Jewish rabbis who stood arm in arm with us in the South. There is hope in this nation, buried though it may be beneath centuries of injustice.
And those allies are exceptions, not the rule. Most of white America is either indifferent or hostile to black liberation. You keep talking about waking their conscience, but we are the ones getting killed in our sleep. You dream while we die.
I do not dream blindly. I dream because I believe despair is a luxury we cannot afford. Hatred is a poison that consumes the vessel as much as its target. If we let our anger drive us, it will burn everything, including the future we claim to fight for.
But sometimes fire is necessary, Martin. Sometimes you need to burn away what's rotten to make space for something new. You speak of hope, I speak of reality. In Harlem, in Watts, in Chicago, our people are not waiting for hope. They're trying to survive. And survival doesn't come with speeches. It comes with action.
Survival is crucial, but we must survive as a people with our souls intact. If we descend into violence, into vengeance, we become trapped in the same brutal logic that has oppressed us. The ends do not justify the means if the means destroy what we seek to build.
And what do we build with submission? More chains, just polished ones. You say the means matter. I agree. That's why I say the means must include self-determination, self-respect. If the house is burning, you don't sit and meditate. You grab a hose or you get out.
But if everyone grabs torches instead, then the house and everyone in it perishes. You call it submission. I call it transformation. The power of love, even in the face of hatred, is not weakness. It's the ultimate strength.
And I say, love without power is empty. You teach our people to forgive their tormentors. But what about justice? What about dignity? A man doesn't become free by asking nicely. He becomes free by standing tall and refusing to bow.
Refusing to bow is precisely what we do when we march unarmed into the face of hatred and say, we are still human. We will not strike back. We will not become what you are. That is the courage I teach.
Then let me ask you this, Martin. When a black child is beaten by police, when a mother loses her son to a racist mob, what do you tell her? To love? To turn the other cheek? Does that feel like justice to her?
I tell her that justice is not vengeance, that her pain is real, and that her love can become the most powerful tool for change. I do not ask her to forget. I ask her to lead.
And I tell her to stand up, to never let that happen again, to teach her other children not to be victims, not to be docile, but to defend themselves because no one else will.
And when they defend themselves with fists and bullets, they will be met with tanks and prisons, and the world will forget who struck first. We must win not only the battle, but the narrative.
We're not trying to win a story, Martin. We're trying to win our freedom. If the world needs a sanitized tale to believe us, then maybe it was never on our side to begin with.
Then we must make it undeniable through our integrity, through our discipline, through the sheer moral weight of our cause.
And I'll make it undeniable through strength, through unity, through refusal. If your dream works, I'll be the first to admit I was wrong. But until then, I'll keep waking our people up.
And I'll keep dreaming, not because I'm blind, but because I still believe we can walk together someday. You and I, two paths maybe, but one destination.
We'll see, Martin. We'll see.
Let me be clear, Dr. King. I'm not out here telling people to go start fights or to cause chaos in the streets. That's a common misconception. I'm saying when someone puts a hand on you unjustly, you should send them to the cemetery. Not because you love violence, but because you love your life.
But Brother Malcolm, when we resort to that kind of retaliation, we only deepen the wounds of this already broken nation. Violence, even in self-defense, reinforces fear and division. And fear, Malcolm, is a poor foundation for any future.
Dr. King, our people are already divided from the rest of America, from dignity, from safety. They're afraid every time they step outside, every time a siren screams down the street. You talk of wounds? What about the wounds already festering in our communities, the ones we didn't cause but are forced to endure?
I don't deny those wounds. I walk among the same people, brother. I see the pain. I weep with them. But I've seen, too, that when we return hate for hate, pain for pain, we inherit the very illness we seek to cure.
And I say that illness is already in the system. We didn't create this disease, we were born into it. And we're being asked to fight it by playing nice? No, Dr. King, that's not justice. That's submission dressed in Sunday clothes.
Submission is silence in the face of injustice. But nonviolence is not silence. It's protest, loud, visible, relentless, but without hate, without bloodshed.
But let me ask you something. If a man breaks into your home and threatens your family, do you invite him to the dinner table or do you protect your own?
I would protect him, but I would not become him.
And what if, by not becoming him, you allow him to burn your home down? What then? Are you still noble or just gone?
If I protect my family with love, with strategy, with dignity, I win twice. I preserve their lives and I preserve their humanity. When we meet hatred with compassion, we expose its ugliness for all the world to see.
You think the world doesn't already see it? The world watched Emmett Till's body in an open casket. The world heard about the 4 girls blown to pieces in that church in Birmingham. The world saw John Lewis bleed on that bridge. And what did they do? Send condolences? We don't need condolences, Martin. We need power.
Power can be rooted in peace.
And peace, too often, is just the silence of the oppressed.
Not the kind of peace I speak of. I speak of positive peace where justice lives. Not the false peace of order maintained by fear, but a peace born of equality.
Then tell me, where's that peace now? You marched, you prayed, you gave speeches that shook the very soul of this nation. And still, black men are hunted. Still, mothers bury sons. Still, America asks us to wait.
And yet I must believe in the higher path, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Because I don't want my children or yours to grow up thinking that justice must always be seized with a clenched fist. Sometimes it's claimed with an open hand and a determined spirit.
You know what scares them, Martin? It's not the gun. It's the black man who knows who he is. That's the real threat. When he looks in the mirror and sees strength, not shame, dignity, not despair, that's what I'm building.
And I respect that, truly. I respect your call for self-worth, for pride. But I don't believe we need to build that pride by drawing lines of separation. We should not define ourselves by how far we are from the oppressor, but by how close we are to our own values.
Sometimes separation is pride. I don't want integration into a burning house. I want liberation on our terms.
Then let's rebuild the house together, brick by brick, not as guests, but as architects of a better nation.
But who owns the land, Martin?
The people, if we dare to believe it.
Belief alone doesn't stop bullets.
But it builds movements, and movements change laws, change hearts. That's how we turned the tide in Montgomery. That's how we passed the Civil Rights Act, not with fear, with faith.
And how many more must die before your faith is enough?
As few as possible, Brother Malcolm. That's why I fight the way I do.
I won't lie. I've watched your marches. I've seen the courage, the restraint. I've seen your people stand still while dogs lunged and water cannons roared. I don't know if I could have stood still like that.
It takes more strength to stand still in the face of violence than to strike back. But it's not about weakness. It's about discipline, about purpose. The world watches that kind of strength, and it moves them.
But does it move them fast enough?
I don't know, but I know it moves something deeper than fear. It moves the conscience. And conscience, Malcolm, is what turns oppressors into allies.
I'm not trying to turn oppressors. I'm trying to protect the oppressed.
Then maybe we're walking different paths to the same goal.
Maybe, but make no mistake, I'll protect my people by any means necessary. That's not a threat. That's a promise.
And I'll fight for their dignity with every sermon, every march, every breath. Not with fists, with faith.
Then may your faith be as strong as my fire.
And may your fire never consume what we're trying to save. You know, Brother Malcolm, there's a deep kind of faith that drives me. A belief not only in the teachings of Christ, but in the idea that even in the heart of darkness, light can be born. That the same people who enslaved us can change.
Dr. King, I respect your conviction, but I don't share your optimism. Change isn't something the oppressed can pray into existence. It's something you force, something you take. And if that light you speak of ever existed in their hearts, it's been buried too deep for too long.
I've seen it, Malcolm. I've marched alongside white folk, some who were raised in hatred, but who stepped out of their comfort because they saw injustice for what it was. They didn't become allies overnight, but they did change.
And I've seen dogs turned on children, fire hoses knocking women off their feet. I've seen white liberals march in the morning and vote against housing equality that same evening. So forgive me if I don't find much comfort in the kindness of a few while the masses stay silent.
I don't ask you to find comfort, brother. I ask you to consider a strategy that doesn't consume our souls. Anger, however justified, is a heavy burden to carry through life.
You think I carry anger? No. What I carry is clarity. I see this country for what it is. I don't hate white people, Martin. I hate the system that was built to crush us. And that clarity, it's not a burden. It's survival.
But what kind of survival are we securing if our hearts turn cold? If our children grow up believing that hate is the only language that power understands?
They already believe that because they've seen the truth. They've seen their fathers humiliated, their mothers working themselves to the bone in white homes while their own fall apart. They've seen cops throw their brothers against walls for nothing. You tell me what lesson they should learn from that.
That we are better than that. That even in the face of brutality, we rise. That our dignity is not up for negotiation because we hold it tight regardless of how they treat us.
And I say dignity begins with protection. You talk about love, I talk about defense. If someone breaks into your home and threatens your family, do you invite them to dinner or do you stand up?
Of course I stand up, but with wisdom, with purpose. The moment I let hatred determine my actions, I become reactionary. I want to be revolutionary.
Then understand that revolution doesn't always come dressed in a suit and a hymn. Sometimes it comes with fists, and sometimes fists are the only thing they understand.
But fists alone cannot build a society. They may tear down walls, but what then? What rises in its place? If we teach our youth only to fight, but not to build, we've lost.
We've already lost if we teach them to wait. Waiting is what they've always told us. Wait your turn. Wait for progress. Wait for justice. And while we wait, they consolidate power. They reinforce prisons. They redraw lines. They write laws in ink and enforce them in blood.
I don't preach waiting. I preach transforming. Love is not passive, Brother Malcolm. It's an active force. It disrupts. It exposes. It breaks cycles of vengeance.
Then ask yourself, who gets to love when their children are starving? Who gets to dream when their homes are bulldozed? You speak of dignity, but there is no dignity in hunger, no holiness in homelessness. You talk of the soul, but I talk of the stomach.
They are not separate. The soul feeds the body. The vision feeds the movement. When we lose sight of the bigger picture, when all we see is the next fight, we risk becoming what we're fighting against.
No, we risk staying in chains if we don't fight at all. Look, I admire your courage. I admire your hope. But I've lost too many brothers. I've seen too many funerals. I can't ask my people to keep turning the other cheek when all we get in return is another boot on the neck.
I don't ask you to turn the cheek for nothing. I ask you to do so because it reveals who they truly are. It unmasks them. The world is watching.
The world has been watching, and they still let it happen. Selma, Birmingham, Watts, Harlem. They watch while sipping their coffee. The world may be watching, but it isn't acting.
Then we give them no excuse not to. We shine a light so bright they can't look away, and we do it without bloodshed. That's the true revolution.
And what happens when they still look away, Martin? What happens when they turn their heads, close their ears, and pass another law in the night while we sing in the morning?
Then we sang louder, we march stronger, we bring more until they must listen.
You ever feel like you're preaching to ghosts?
All the time, but I do it anyway, because even ghosts have a story. And sometimes they return to remind the living of what they've done.
You're a poetic man, Martin.
And you a truthful one, Malcolm.
Truth without power is a whisper in a storm.
Then let's turn our whispers into a chorus. You and I, we don't have to walk the same road, but maybe, just maybe, we're heading toward the same horizon.
Justice.
Peace with justice.
Freedom with dignity.
For our children.
For our future.
You know, Martin, this idea that we can appeal to white America's conscience, it's a fantasy, a dangerous one. They don't see us as humans, not really. We are problems to be solved or threats to be managed. That's how the system sees us. That's how it was built.
Malcolm, I understand your frustration. I carry that burden every day. I see it in the eyes of mothers who've lost sons to police bullets. I hear it in the desperation of fathers who can't find work because of the color of their skin. But I refuse to believe that the heart of this nation is beyond redemption.
Redemption? This country was never meant for us. It was built on us, on our backs. We were the capital, the wealth of America. Its railroads, its cotton, its banks, that was our blood. And you think the same men who profited from that system will dismantle it because we marched and prayed?
I'm not naive. I know the roots run deep, but I also know history. I know that change comes when enough people, black and white, stand together and say no more. That's what we saw in Selma. That's what we saw in Montgomery. When white clergy, students, factory workers risked their lives to walk beside us, it meant something.
And yet nothing's really changed, has it? The plantations became prisons. The chains became poverty. They swapped hoods for badges. Don't talk to me about token allies when the system remains untouched. Integration without justice is just a new kind of slavery.
What is the alternative, Malcolm? Total separation? That may restore pride, but will it feed our children? Educate them? Will it protect them from bombs in churches or bullets on the streets?
Yes, if we control our own institutions, our own schools, our own businesses, our own neighborhoods, we don't ask for protection. We provide it. We build strength, not dependency.
But that risks replacing one division with another. America cannot survive permanently half segregated and half integrated. If we retreat into enclaves, into tribes, then we've already accepted defeat. My dream is not just black prosperity, it's shared humanity.
That dream is beautiful, but it doesn't match our reality. Reality is my people live in rat-infested tenements. They work the hardest jobs for the lowest pay. Their schools are broken, their water is poisoned, their food is rotting. What does shared humanity mean when the white man sits at the table and we're begging for scraps?
It means we must rise together. It means confronting injustice not by mirroring its cruelty, but by exposing its moral bankruptcy. When Bull Connor turned fire hoses on children, the world watched. They saw who the real savages were. That moment did more to awaken the conscience of this nation than any gun ever could.
And while the world watched, those children choked on tear gas. While you prayed for your enemies, they planted bombs under your churches. Don't confuse attention with transformation. They watched, but did they change?
Some did. Enough to move Congress. Enough to pass the Civil Rights Act. Enough to bring the Voting Rights Act to the floor. That's not nothing, Malcolm. It's not everything, but it's not nothing.
Laws don't change hearts, Martin. A man can still hate you while shaking your hand. He can sign a bill with one pen and pass redlining policies with the other. That's what white America does, smiles at you while it tightens the noose.
But laws are a start. You can't legislate love, but you can prevent lynching. You can't force compassion, but you can protect rights. I'm not in love with America's ideals, but I am committed to holding her accountable to them.
You still believe in their ideals. I don't. I believe in us, in our power, in our self-determination. Not as second-class citizens hoping for inclusion, but as a people ready to stand on our own. That's why I speak of Pan-Africanism, of unity across the black world. We don't need them, we need each other.
There is strength in unity, yes, and I support the call for global justice. But here, right here, we live in America. This is our soil too. Our blood was shed on every battlefield. Our sweat built every city. We are not foreigners here. We are stakeholders, and I will not surrender this land to hatred, ours or theirs.
Then tell me this, Martin. When will America finally see us as full human beings?
When we refuse to become what they fear, and instead become what they cannot ignore. A movement built not on vengeance, but on vision. Not on destruction, but dignity.
That's poetic. But our people don't live in poems. They live in pain.
I know, and I carry that pain with every step I take. But if pain is all we pass down, then the system has already won.
Then maybe, just maybe, we need both. Your vision and my fire. Your dream and my demand. Two paths, one people.
You know, people often misunderstand what we mean by revolution. They picture torches, blood, uprisings in the street. But revolution, real revolution, is a change in values, a shift in how we see ourselves and each other. That's where the true power lies.
With respect, Martin, that sounds poetic, but it doesn't speak to the brother who's hungry tonight, or the sister who just buried her son. You can't meditate your way out of poverty. You can't pray away a policeman's gun.
We cannot meet brutality with brutality and expect to heal the soul of a nation. That's not a revolution. That's a civil war.
Maybe we need a civil war. Maybe shaking this country to its core is the only thing that will make it listen. You talk about the soul of America, but what if that soul is already dead?
I refuse to believe that the soul of America is dead. I've looked into the eyes of people, black and white, who marched beside me, who bled beside me. I've seen transformation. It is possible, even in the heart of this broken land.
Transformation is slow, Dr. King, and time has not been a friend to black folks.
Violence buys attention, not justice. Look at Gandhi. Look at what we did in Montgomery. When we sat down, they stood up and took notice. We revealed the ugliness of segregation without becoming ugly ourselves.
Gandhi was fighting the British, who, for all their sins, had a press that reported the truth. We're facing men who burn crosses on Saturday and go to church on Sunday. Men who smile in your face and pass laws to choke the breath out of your community.
All the more reason to hold on to our moral center. If we abandon principle for rage, we inherit the same disease we seek to cure.
But that's the problem, Martin. You're asking black people to be better than our oppressors, more patient, more loving, more forgiving. Do you see the burden that puts on us? Why must the victim bear the moral weight of the crime?
Because only love can drive out hate. I don't say that lightly. I've buried friends. I've been beaten. I've had bombs thrown at my home with my family inside. And still, I choose love.
Then, I respect your strength. I truly do. But I choose self-determination. I choose power. I choose to fight for dignity without asking permission.
Do I believe violence is the path? No. I believe we must choose another way. They've closed many peaceful doors, but not all, not yet.
No, not the only path, but the path they left us. They've closed every peaceful door. They shot Medgar in the back. They bombed 4 little girls in a church in Birmingham. They won't even charge the killers half the time. So tell me, where's the justice and patience?
There's no justice in waiting forever, but there's also no justice in becoming what we hate.
I'm not saying we become them. I'm saying we defend ourselves like men. I'm saying the revolution starts in the mirror, in rejecting the lie of inferiority, in teaching our people that we are not just victims. We are the descendants of kings, of warriors.
We must reclaim our dignity, but I believe we can do so without blood, without leaving mothers to mourn and children to avenge.
Tell that to the mothers already mourning, to the children already orphaned. How do we ask them to wait when their lives are already gone?
We don't ask them to wait. We ask them to rise, not with fists, but with purpose, with unity. The revolution I dream of is one where the ballot is more powerful than the bullet.
But even the ballot is denied us. Gerrymandering, intimidation, illiteracy tests. Do you believe the system will ever willingly empower those it was designed to crush?
If the system denies us the ballot, then we must change the system from within, brick by brick. We are already doing it. The Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, these are victories. Incomplete, yes, but victories nonetheless.
Small victories in a large war. The battlefield is our schools, our streets, our prisons. They've criminalized our very existence.
Let us be builders of justice,
not destroyers of hope. Let us build schools. Let us fill courtrooms with righteous law. Let us fill the airwaves with truth. The revolution is not just protest, it's policy.
And who will fund these schools? Who will hire these lawyers? You talk like we're already free, but we're still on the plantation, just dressed in new clothes.
I know we're not free yet, but I believe we're on the path. That's the essence of my dream, that someday our children will walk unafraid, not because we taught them to fight, but because we changed the world around them.
And I hope they do, but I'll teach my son to stand with his back straight and his fists ready, just in case that world doesn't arrive in time.
And I'll teach my son to stand with his heart open, not naive, but bold, strong enough to love in the face of hate.
Maybe they'll both survive then, yours with his heart, mine with his hands.
I believe we're trying to take our people to the same mountaintop. We just walk different paths to the summit.
You know, Martin, we may never agree on how to get there, but we're both trying to take our people to the same mountaintop.
As long as we don't forget the climb, we won't.
Malcolm, I may not walk your path, but I see the road you're on. And I want you to know, I don't question your devotion to our people. Not for a moment.
And I never question yours, Martin. You put your body on the line for us. You went to jail, got beaten, threatened with death. That takes courage. Even if I disagree with your method, I respect the man.
That's more than many are willing to say. And it means something coming from you.
Look, we come from different places. You, the son of a preacher, raised in middle-class respectability. Me, I came up in the streets, foster homes, prison. I saw a different America.
And I admire your journey. It's carved in fire. You rose from the ashes, brother.
But sometimes I wonder, maybe our people need both, the fire and the calm, the sword and the shield. Maybe we were meant to push from different ends, to shake the walls from both sides.
You may be right. One voice calls for redemption, the other demands reckoning. And perhaps the truth lies in the tension between the two.
We've both seen the same pain, Martin. Lynching, police, poverty, drug traps, Jim Crow in the South, redlining in the North. It's all the same beast, just different heads.
And it's a beast that adapts, that survives by dividing us, by making your rage seem dangerous and my forgiveness seem weak.
I've been called dangerous my whole life, a threat, even by our own people sometimes. They fear my anger, but they never ask what birthed it.
Because anger is easier to fear than to understand. But your anger, it speaks for millions. It is valid, necessary even, as long as it doesn't devour you.
That's the balance I try to keep. Some days I feel like a volcano holding itself back. But what else are we supposed to feel? Seeing black boys gunned down, families evicted, schools starved of resources.
It breaks the heart, and yet I still believe, even in all that sorrow, we must fight for the soul of this nation, not just for what it is, but what it could become.
That's the preacher in you talking.
And the street philosopher in you knows that some of these devils have souls too. And the street philosopher...
Maybe. But I've learned not to count on redemption. I count on resistance.
And I count on love, because I believe even resistance, if it lacks love, becomes blind. It burns not only the chains, but the hands trying to break them.
And I believe even love, if it lacks resistance, becomes begging. It becomes obedience dressed in kindness.
Then let's not choose between them. Let's blend them. Righteous love and loving resistance.
That might be the hardest thing of all, you know? To fight like a warrior and love like a prophet.
Yet that's the calling. That's the revolution.
Martin, sometimes I look at our people and I feel this weight, like we're racing against time, like we don't have generations to wait.
We don't, but we have each other, and that's more powerful than you think. We need strategy, yes. We need rage, but we also need hope. Hope rooted in action.
I used to think hope was a luxury, something the privileged could afford. But lately, I don't know, maybe it's survival too.
Hope is revolutionary, Malcolm. It's an act of defiance to still believe in tomorrow when today is trying to crush you.
And maybe believing in our people is the biggest act of faith there is. Even if we argue how to do it, I know you believe in them, just like I do.
Then perhaps history won't remember us as enemies, but as different verses in the same song. A song of struggle, of liberation.
Different rhythms, same chorus.
Justice.
Real, uncompromising, unapologetic justice.
Then let's keep walking, each on our own road, but toward the same horizon.
Just don't stop walking. That's all I ask.
Never.
Or maybe they'll finally build the world we only imagined.
Maybe the next generation will carry our words further than we ever could.